We will be grateful for all of you for your active participation and enthusiasm to make this venture successful and well attended. Professor Ananda Lal will be at the helm of the book club. Son of renowned Professor P. Lal, founder of Writers' Workshop, Ananda is an academic and a theatre critic. He is a former professor of English and coordinator Ravindranath Tagore Studies Center at Jadavpur University. He now heads Writers' Workshop. His books include Indian Drama in English, The Beginnings in 2019, The Oxford Companion to the Indian Theatre 2014, Theatres of India 2009, and many more. With his erudition, I am sure that this is going to be a very interesting discussion. I now ask Ananda to tell all of you about the modalities of the book club. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jayashriji, and welcome. You are the first members of the Birla Academy Book Club, which is actually something that I think all cities should have, but Kolkata, as far as I know, doesn't have one formally. And here is this city of literature without a book club. There are libraries, of course, but a book club is somewhat different. A book club is informally arranged so that people like you can get together and discuss one particular book on a particular evening, and it is not a formal occasion. In other words, strictly speaking, a book club is more like an adda, where we should be sitting in a round circle, and maybe we can do that from next time. And we are all part of one adda chakro, as we know it in this country, especially this part of the country. So it was Jayashree ji's very spark of an idea, I must say, that we should have something like this in the Birla Academy. And of course, the Birla Academy, with its heritage, with its focus on arts and culture, is the ideal place for something like this. So I readily agreed, and the plan is to have monthly meetings. And presently we are thinking of Sunday evenings, but if you think that maybe a weekday evening is better, we can always work these out, whichever you think is a better way of doing this. And every month, hopefully, we will meet once and discuss one of the classics or one of the books that all of you should either have read by now, some of you might have known by heart by now, and some of you may eventually go on to read it as a result of what we discuss over here. The idea is not necessarily that they will all be classics. Sometimes we may come across something that many of you don't know, but is well worth discussing right now for various reasons which are relevant, which are pertinent. So that's the plan of the book club. Jayashree ji, anything else that you would like to?
I think that's all right. If any of you have any questions, please ask.
Go ahead and ask about the program itself, modalities.
Modalities, the rubrics, whatever you want. No? All right? All satisfied? Thank you.
So I think there is a question. Yes, please. No, this is not a formal lecture. The idea is that if there is something that we might feel or someone might feel that you should have copies of, then we'll definitely produce it. But for a book like Gitanjali, I think all of you are aware about some of it, and the rest of it will probably come through in the discussion anyway, and all of you probably have a copy of it at home in either language or in, who knows, so many other languages that I know. Spanish perhaps has, we have someone in the audience who knows Spanish, so there's a very good translation of Gitanjali in Spanish. one of the best in any language, actually. So we'll come to that one by one as we proceed. Any other questions about the what we are going through, what we are about to begin, the beginning of the initiation of a new society, the book club. Monthly meeting, those of you who came in a little late, we are planning monthly meetings of the book club in the Birla Academy to discuss one particular book every month and informally talk about it. Then let's proceed. I think the choice for the launch of the book club is pretty obvious, because what other book than the Gitanjali could be better to start off to inaugurate such a session. I'd like to see their faces. I might even move around, Shashiji. I like standing, because then I like to, I get to see your faces. So the apart from the fact that the Gitanjali obviously won the Nobel Prize, that's not the reason that I have chosen it for discussion, because the Gitanjali obviously existed in Bangla before it was translated into English, and then went on in its English incarnation to win the Nobel Prize. So we are going to be talking a little bit about the Bangla edition of Gitanjali. Then I'll proceed to tell you, and some of you might know this history anyway, or at least some of this history, how it was translated into English, what went on in the translation process, lots of funny anecdotes, and then we'll talk about the afterlife of the Gitanjali and what it is, where it stands now. I'd like to ask you, just at the beginning, I'm assuming that most of you, of course, being Bangali, know Bangla. So how many of you do not have access to the Bangla Gitanjali? Just raise your hands. You don't know Bangla. There's no harm in that whatsoever. So you know what language? What's your English and your mother tongue? No, everybody else, I'm assuming, knows Bangla. The lady behind you raised therefore your first language is English. Jorge? Spanish and English. And anyone else? Okay, so English. Yes. All right. Fine. Please come in, please come in. Yes, just take some more chairs and please sit down. So you'll have to make some concessions, those of you who know the Gitanjali in Bangla, for those in the audience who are not aware of the Bangla. And I will try to bridge some of the differences, because there are huge differences between the Bangla Gitanjali and the English Gitanjali, and even the Spanish Gitanjali. We'll talk about these as we go on. So what is curious about Gitanjali as the Bengali book is that it was published in 1910, which marks a very interesting point in Tagore's life, because he was just about going to be 50 years old. And he died, as you know, at the age of 80. And if you assume that an author's creative ability starts, let's say, when he's late teens or 20, this is simple mathematics, then for Rabindranath, somebody like Rabindranath, his literary output, his creative abilities are, let's say, starting off in maturity at the age of 20, although we all know that he began writing very well before that. But let's say 20, and then 60 years later, he dies at the age of 80. So 30 years is the halfway mark for Rabindranath. in his creative life. And that marks the Gitanjali. 30 years meaning 20 plus 30, 50 years old. So it's smack in the middle of Rabindranath's career, and therefore it's actually not that bad an idea if you think of Gitanjali as Rabindranath's seminal work, as the kind of Everest in that huge mountain range that Rabindranath encompasses. We are not even talking about Rabindranath's fiction, his drama, his songs, which is an interesting thing for the Gitanjali because they are also songs, his essays, his paintings, his educational output. We are just focusing on his poetry, his literature, and within the poetry, the Gitanjali as a book. So, you see, Bengalis take it for granted that everybody knows how great Rabindranath is. Everybody across the world. They don't. We have to tell them this all the time. That it's very difficult to find somebody like Tagore who excelled in all these forms of literature as well as art, music, theatre, dance, nritya natya. And if he had had a chance, he would have made a film as well. In fact, he was. He was, as you know, working on Notir Puja, but that didn't work out because he was fascinated by every kind of artistic creativity, artistic form. He even tried his hand at, in that sense, architecture. All of you, or many of you, have been to Shantiniketan. You'll realize that the architecture of Shantiniketan is very, very different. Again, it's inspired by his thoughts. So he was really an artist in every sense of the word. Coming back to the Gitanjali, 1910, in Bangla, it comes out, and it contains in Bangla, many of you will know how many poems? No? No quizzard among the audience who knows the answer right away? 157. Aksho Shatannota poems, of which many of them he also composed as songs, not all of them. So this is a huge problem to those who don't know Bangla or cannot hear the music of the Gitanjali songs because they have no clue whatsoever that most of the Gitanjali songs, poems, are actually also songs. There is nobody like, again, Tagore in the number of songs that he wrote, over 2,000. You compare with somebody in the West who wrote many, many songs, like, for instance, Schubert. He wrote, I think, something like 300 or 400 songs, and he's considered to be a prolific songwriter. If you just think of Rabindranath's songwriting career, that would have been enough in his entire lifetime. I don't know, he never slept, I think. He probably compressed 48 hours into 24 hours, or maybe 72 hours into 24 hours. I don't know how he managed it. True, of course, he belonged to a Jomidar badi, but then he did a lot of work. Let's face it. Let's accept this, that it was not the typical Alladi Jomidar who kind of relaxes and lives off the fat of the land. That was not him. Several things also happened in the few years that led up to the Gitanjali, which normally Tagore specialists point to as having created, influenced, inspired the Gitanjali. And these were all very tragic, very sad, sorrowful happenings in Rabindranath's own life. Because in the 10 years before Gitanjali was published, he lost how many members of his family? 4. Name them. Father, wife, 2 children. 4. That's quite a number. I mean, you just think about it. We lose one member of our family and we are devastated for several years, one after another. And the children, of course, being children, are much younger. They died at the ages of 10, 11. His wife died very young, before she was 30. His father, of course, was much older. He could cope with that. But can you imagine what went through this person's life, his mind, his heart? And so usually what happens is, since the Gitanjali is mainly devotional, most scholars say that it had to have been inspired or influenced by the shock, the trauma that he went through. That's why he's turning to God. Of course, that's not correct. He was writing devotional poems and songs way back before. But it is true that the kind of writing in Gitanjali, even the devotional writing, the spiritual writing, there's a difference between devotional and spiritual. That too, I think we should point out, because devotional usually defines a particular God or deity that you are, or God, even the idea of God that you are addressing something to. Whereas spiritual need not necessarily be that. Spiritual is more philosophical. So it's about spirituality, which need not necessarily be related to a particular religious faith. So there are opinions about these as well, but I don't want to get too academic over here. I'm just trying to be a small layperson's gathering, so we need to talk about these in simple language. And you can tell the development of Rabindranath's spiritual writings or devotional writing, poems and songs, by the fact that in the early part of his life, some of you will know, many of these songs were more like Vaishnava songs, the typical Radha Krishna motif of a lover pining for his or her beloved. That, through that symbol, we always have in this country, we have always dealt with the spiritual or devotional urge of humanity as well. So you see that, the idea of the beloved addressing, or the lover addressing the beloved and being separated and therefore wanting unity, that's there more in the earlier phase. When you come to Gitanjali, you find that there is fewer usages of words like priyo. Priyo literally means dearest, or even priyo, of course, could be love, loved one, beloved. He is using other words. He will use words like Prabhu. Prabhu meaning master or Lord. Or he will simply use the word tumi, which is very interesting, because although that tradition is also there in Indian mystical poetry, tumi, addressed to the spiritual figure who you are inspired by, it is happening more in the Gitanjali than in previous books of Tagore's. The occurrence is more. And then when you realize that you have this word tumi, you realize that you, the equivalent it's not, of course, we have apni and tumi, but it's simple secular you, means that the you can be interpreted doubly. It can, of course, the you can be spiritual. We know it is spiritual because we know Rabindranath. But someone who's reading the poem by themselves can easily read it as to a loved one, completely secular, and can interpret it that way. No harm done to the poem whatsoever, no harm done to the song whatsoever. So there is already a double layer happening. You cannot do that with Prabhu, obviously. Equality is not there. You cannot do it with Devata, obviously not. So this is what is happening with Gitanjali. And Gitanjali, of course, some of you will know, is the the first of 3 books, Gitanjali, Gitimallo, and Gitali. All 3 of them successively coming out one after the other during these 4 or 5 years. So he is finding this you through songs in all these 3, mostly songs in all these 3 books. Geet. In English, the subtitle of Gitanjali was Song Offerings. He kept that, Geet Anjali, Anjali. But the English reader will not really know that these are actually songs. So that is the first very interesting quality we have with the Gitanjali, which Bangalis understand. Many other Indians will also understand, because they will know the rags, they will know the kirtan dhang, for many the baul songs maybe, so they can relate to those. But outside India, it's going to be difficult for them. They may not even be able to hear it. Of course, now online you can, but the musical system, the musical culture would be slightly different. What I would like to do initially is show you the range in those 157 poems. It was a book of poems at first, many of which, as I said, were composed as music, the range of his themes. So let me, for instance, and all of these you know so well, most of the Bengalis in the audience will know so well. The first one is Bipode More Rokha Karo. Now I know there are many good enough singers in the audience, so I would request any of you who knows this song well enough just to sing us the first couple of lines. Bipode More Rokha Karo. Would you? That's simple enough, right?
ওয়ার্ডিংস গুলো একটু বলে দেবেন, নাহলে
সুবিধা হবে কি বই থেকে খুব ছোট অক্ষর যদিও
দেখতে পাচ্ছি না। এই তো তুমি তুমি পড়ো। বিপদে মোরে রক্ষা করো, এ নহে মোর প্রার্থনা, বিপদে আমি না যেন করি ভয়।
Thank you. Now I want to thank you so much. We'll come back to you again and again. Why am I doing this? I want to show to you that what he's saying, those of you who understand Bangla will realize what it is right away. But those of you who don't, what is he saying over here? He is telling you that we must not look to you, whoever that capital Y U is, to rescue us from danger. Instead, we must not fear danger. It's up to us. And therefore, this sense that I am also empowered, I can take care, can control the situation when danger arises. This is one of the strongest ideas of that equality that I was talking to you about. It's not that someone is superior and someone is inferior, but I also need to do something in this relationship. The next one is something that is completely different, which many of you will probably be aware of. Aaj dhaner khete roudro chaya. All of you can join in, so that those of you who haven't heard the song can know what it's about. Aaj dhaner khete. Luko churir khela, luko churir khela. Fine. Now notice what's happening here. The first one, Bipode More, was number 4. This is number 8. So within just 4 songs, the theme has completely changed. This song there is no question of any God. Of course, you can always argue that God is lurking behind all the time in Rabindranath, because till the very end he was a believer. He had faith. So for him, nature was the manifestation of God. So if you know that, you realize that even the dhaner khet are forms of divinity. Lukochuri khala, hide and seek. We know what we're talking about here. The wind, the sunlight, the paddy fields, they're all playing hide and seek now. We see this and you can say that, okay, this is the scientific phenomena. You can describe it. But then he is seeing it through a different set of eyes, glasses, prism, right? He is seeing it as the play of divinity. So you have nature songs as well. Now what he's going to do, we'll see in the English Gitanjali, when he comes to that, he drops out many of these other themes. The English Gitanjali is more unified as a spiritual experience. So these are the first two. Let's look at another one. I'll just give you, I'm not going to give you more than maybe maximum 10 and only snatches of these so that you know what a range he's covering. And these are all from Gitanjali. Jani jani kon adikal hote. Who's going to try that? Na? Jani jani kon adikal hote. Anybody? জানি জানি কোন আদিকাল হতে ভাসালে আমায় জীবনের স্রোতে সহসা হে প্রিয়. Forgive my Beshure rendition. I haven't sung in a long time, but just because none of you volunteered. But you see what's happening here. জানি জানি কোন আদিকাল হতে ভাসালে আমারে জীবনের স্রোতে. I know from what ancient times you have floated me out on the stream, the current of life. Is he talking about incarnation, or is he just talking about Ami is humanity? Up to you. Both. Why not? And then Shohosha he priyo, that older word is coming back over here. So that happens. Priyo, my beloved. Always my beloved. Koto, where's it gone now? Shohosha he priyo, koto grihe pothe, rekhe gecho prane, koto horosono. You've always given me this sense of this sensibility all the time. So this is a different kind of, this is almost harking back to the earlier divinity, the divine theme that we were talking about in this first phase. All right, let's skip ahead. Prabhu toma lagi akhi jage. এটাই তো সহজ. প্রভু তোমা লাগি আঁখি জাগে দেখা নাই পাই পথ চাই সেও মনে. You want to try your hand at it? No, it doesn't matter. Go ahead. No? Here, the word that I want to tell you is Prabhu, master. And Toma lagi aakhi jage, my eyes opening for you. And dekha nai pai, I don't see you. Poth chai, I keep looking at the way, but I still don't see you. Sheo mone bhalo lage. Even that Even that looking for you, that journeying towards you, even that I like, I love. I have opened my eyes for you. I don't see you anywhere. But I still like that searching for you. So again, every song has its own little contribution to the huge, large theme that he's dealing with, which of course is devotional. Let's skip. These were all Jani Jani was number 21, Prabhu Toma Lagi was number 28. We are going to number 44 now. Jagote Ananda Jogge. Yes? Good.
Ananda Jogge Amar Nimantrano মানব জীবন জগতে আনন্দ যোগে আমার নিমন্ত্রণ.
Now, many of you will know that Rabindranath belonged to the Brahmo Samaj towards the early part of his life, and this is one of the very common Brahmo Sangeetas, they call it. They sing this regularly at the Samaj. And of course, notice how this too has a different theme. Jagote Ananda Joge, and this kind of yagya, ritual, rite of joy. Amar Nimantran, I have been invited to this huge world rite ritual of joy. It's joy all around. Now we know that's not always the case, but look at the approach, the perspective of this person, this man, is that the world is full of joy. Dhonno holo, I am blessed that I am here. It's always an affirmative, positive side that Rabindranath tried to see because he had this belief. The very next song, that was number 44, and then number 45, Aloe Alokmoy. Anybody knows that? Aloe Alokmoy kore he. Aloe Alokmoy kore he, ele aloe alo. Okay, sorry once again. Okay. But the whole thing about light, light itself is divine, which of course is there in all religions. Light meaning sunlight, sunlight meaning the force of the sun. It is of course spiritual. The whole thing is about light, this particular song. Of course, but that's not one of the Gitanjali songs. We are only focusing in, now just see how many brilliant songs he's already created only in this one book. And these are some of the more commonly known songs. Kunta? Number 47, Roop Shagore Dub Diyechi. জানেন জানেন নিশ্চয়ই জানেন
ডুব দিয়েছি অরতন আশা করে রূপ সাগরে ডুব দিয়েছি অরূপ রতন আশা করে.
Now you see what's happening over here. Literally, I have dived in the ocean of form, roop, searching for, hoping for, asha kori, hoping for the Arup Ratan, literally the formless jewel. Now again, just think of the symbolism of this. I have dived into the sea of form, so much form, so many forms. And what am I looking for? this one Arup Ratan, this formless jewel, hoping to find it over there. Of course, you're not going to find it there. Where will you find it? Everywhere. And this is behind a lot of the other literature also that Rabindranath wrote. It's about form, roop, and Arup. In fact, he was very often caught between this. It was a kind of tussle, because Arup, of course, means literally formless, but it means God. Arup is, because God is formless, is God. But Rabindranath loved form. He loved to be with physical objects, nature, and relationships. And how can you reconcile these? And through that conflict, you get so much creativity. In fact, he titled one of his plays, Arup Ratan. Arup Ratan is the revised version of Raja. Coincidentally, 1910, the same year, Gitanjali is published, Raja, the play, is published, which in English translation became The King of the Dark Chamber, and Gora, the novel, is published. Can you imagine one author writing Gitanjali, Raja, and Gora the same year, publishing them the same year? Now, Gora, of course, we won't get into, well, we will actually later on. But the subject of Gora, you know. Now, it's, of course, actually a political and social document, because many of his novels are like that. And Arup Ratan, or Raja, is coming from Buddhist fables, from the Jataka tales of the queen who wants to see the handsome king. And the king, of course, says, you can't see me. I'm not going to show myself to you. And eventually in the Buddhist story, he shows himself, and he is so quote-unquote ugly, horrible to look at, that she just is repulsed and leaves. But this is only a spiritual allegory. Sudarshana, the queen, is us. We think that God is always going to be good and kind and beautiful. God is going to be harsh also. You can't have a happy life all the time. You have to accept that. Once you realize that life comes with with beauty and cruelty, you have to accept it. And then you are finally, the synthesis occurs, you are reconciled to what is life? What is the meaning behind life? So we are almost towards the end of these songs. Let's skip a little bit more to number 65. We have lots of other things to discuss, so we shouldn't get stuck over here. Kobe ami bahir holem. হ্যাঁ গাইবেন কে গাইবেন হ্যাঁ
কবে আমি বাহির হলেম তোমারি গানগে সে তো আজকে নয় সে আজকে নয়
Since when did I leave? When did I walk out? When did I go out? Singing your song, your name, literally singing your name. It's not today. Again, you can, of course, take it literally, but the idea is today, of course, is not our life. It's ages and ages. You can also talk about one person's life. But the time is eternal. We've been doing this all along. I heard this song the other day, so I thought I'll use this as well in a program. This is number 74. Bajre tomar baje bashi. This is what I was telling you about.
বজ্রে বজ্রে তোমার বাজে বাঁশি
সে কি সহজ গান বজ্রে বজ্রে তোমায় বাজে বাঁশি সে কি সহজ গান. These two words, these two images recur again and again in Rabindranath. Bajra, the thunder, the lightning, and the bashi, the flute. Both, of course, are sounds, thunder and flute. They come together. Your flute, and of course, the minute you hear Indians hear, Hindus hear about the bashi, they are connecting, of course, to the Vaishnav tradition, Krishna. So you hear the bashi within the thunder. You can't say the thunder is horrible. No, 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 no. They both go together. You have to be able to hear the flute inside the thunder. Also, be prepared to hear the thunder inside the flute. And is Sheki Shohoj Gan? Is that an easy song? It is not. If it was just a flute song, it's an easy song. If it was just a bojro sound, it's an easy sound. No, this is a complex matter. How much time do we have? Yes, we do have time. Along the same lines, number 91, for instance, ei korecho bhalo nichuro he.
এই করেছো ভালো নিঠুরো হে নিঠুরো হে এই করেছো ভালো.
Now again, notice what
এমনি করে হৃদয়ে মোর তীব্র
দহন জালো
নিঠুরো হে নিঠুরো হে এই করেছো ভালো.
Literally, for those of you who don't know the Bangla, you have done well. You've really done well. Cruel one, nituro he, nituro he. Why? Why has the cruel one done well?